You're still watching TVC Breakfast, and we're going into the oily matters right now, just like Etoma said. Now, Dangote Refinery has come under scrutiny following reports of over 800 workers layoff. Now, sparking reactions from the Petroleum and National Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, Pengassan. Now, the union has raised concerns about the implications for job security and employee welfare, stating that the nation's largest refinery project must prioritize its workforce even while pursuing efficiency. Now, responding to this, Dangote management argued that decisions are part of internal restructuring aimed at sustaining operations and meeting long-term goals. While both sides standing firm, the federal government has called both parties to an emergency meeting over the ongoing rift and asked Pengassan members to reconsider its strike. Now, joining us via Zoom from Abuja for this conversation is Public Affairs Analyst Femi Lawson. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Good morning. Thank you, the breakfast team.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us, sir. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. Now, we're getting into this very dicey matter that is on the lips of every Nigerian as we speak. Now, we've been following the story. We started with Dangote and Nopeng, now Dangote and Pengassan. And we're looking at the allegedly sacking of 800 workers in a day, which is quite scary. A lot of people wonder, what happens to the people that are working? Are they not sure of their jobs? Can you just sleep and wake up and you do not have a job again? A lot of people are blaming Dangote. A lot of people are blaming Pengassan. But at the end of the day, if the strike takes place, who gets to suffer it? We all get to suffer it. If we do not have fuel, how do we come to work? How do SMEs even, survive? At the end of the day, they say when two elephants fight, the ground suffers. Is Dangote not seeing this happening? Because he always puts Africa first and Nigerians first.
Thank you. To start with, I think the 800 workers or thereabout were not allegedly sacked. They were actually sacked because we have seen public statement being made by the company itself, asking these workers to go home. And you must understand that as much as I want to say that Pengassan, just like every other labor unions, are not infallible, the truth is that corporations in Nigeria, particularly the private sector, must also begin to act in a responsible manner, because a lot of people may not know how irresponsible, with all sense of responsibility, to say that it is for a company to put 800 people out of job while they were in their sleep in their various homes, only to wake up in the morning. Some were even already, within the precinct of the refinery, getting close to their offices before reading, possibly on the social media or in the news, that they've been laid off. So as much as we want to say that the labor union, need to reconsider its stance, it is also important to also call out a corporation as big as Dangote Industries, laying off about 800 people for such reason as frivolous as their right to freely associate, which is a constitutionally guaranteed right, with their union, the oil workers union. And I am not sure, despite the controversies around this, being part of the union or not as Dangote workers, I'm not sure there has been any time that these workers were forced or coerced into joining the union, which seems like the primary reason why Dangote, has laid them off. So it is very unfair that as much as we want to call out Pengassan for declaring a strike and calling for a boycott, of operation of the Dangote refineries, we must also tell it to the face of Dangote Refinery that, you know what it means?
Yeah.
To throw 800, not individuals,
that is
800
a lot.
breadwinners of 800 families into the labor market overnight.
That is a lot by any standard. But let us look at the sector we're talking about, and then the size of the investment that we are also talking about. Taking that into consideration, if you were the owner of Dangote, would you want your staff to be unionized? And if you have shown them that you don't want them to join any union because they are working for you, a private entity, and they go ahead and sign up for one of the unions, what would your reaction be?
You see, there's no law that is superior to the ground norm, that is to the constitution of the land. You see, a lot of times, people also want to make it look as if this is the first, corporation that's going to be producing oil in Nigeria. You see, every sector, every business has its own culture, has its own tradition. You see, the business of oil and gas business, the energy sector, is quite different from the business of tomatoes, spaghetti, and sugar. Each industries are guided by tradition and rules. And for your information, Dangote is also the biggest oil company that will operate in Nigeria. There are multinational oil companies in Nigeria that have more numbers of Nigerians employed, that are more, production capacity and the like, even though they are not refining in Nigeria. And I have workers who are members of this union. And as much as you may wish that, you don't want your members to be part of any union, it is also must be understood that as Nigerians and as workers, they have right to belong to associations as granted by the Constitution, which is superior to any other laws, including your private sector law or your company law. Because this is the time you may now have to go and test this, before the court, if the option of dialogue fails, that people can sit because it is their private business. The corporate entities also have a duty to be accountable. Because it's my business, this is the way I want it run, does not mean you run it in a way that does not conform with the laws of the land. And that is why, because if we keep saying it is his private business, then we may be undermining certain laws of our land, which guarantees the right of Nigerians to certain things that they may want to do, even as workers within the company.
Mr. Femi, what a lot of Nigerians are saying now and what they are worried about is that, you sack 800 Nigerians. According to you, it's not allegedly, it has happened. You sack 800 Nigerians and then you replace them with foreigners. But this is somebody that's always been saying Nigeria first, and then you bring Indians and put them on. But what I want to speak about is what is the way forward, Mr. Femi? Because like I said earlier on, we started with Dangote and Nupen, and now Dangote and this again. One man, different quarrels with one organization or the other. So looking at it holistically, what is the way forward? Because when this continues to happen, we suffer it. Like if you go outside now and there's no fuel, the queues, the traffic, like it just makes Nigerians more frustrated. I want to look at solutions. From your own aspect, what can be done immediately to make sure that this strike doesn't even happen, or if it happens, it doesn't even stay long?
Sincerely, any sincere solution must be all-encompassing. Because a lot of times, people are looking at it from the narrow point of who is involved. We must look beyond who is involved into what are the issues really are. This is not the first time that this kind of controversy is emerging around the operation of Dangote refineries. Remember, it started with NMPDRA, the issue of product standard and the likes. Dangote must not start this refinery business, this oil and gas involvement, on a note of controversy. If it is not Nupen today, it is NMPDRC tomorrow. If it is not DAPMAN today, it is Pengassan tomorrow. You are not the only oil company operating in this country. Moving forward is the fact that the Dangote refinery must first and foremost understand that, like I said, this is an entirely different area of economy. It is not sugar, it is not tomato, and that it must be ready to, work in line with the dictates, the tradition, and the policy that guides the energy sector. For instance, Dangote may have the capacity to produce 70 million liters, 80 million liters today, but does Dangote have the capacity for storage that can take care of this country if we have 20 days of non-productivity in that refinery today? That's why you must engage people. Today, we are talking about storage, we are talking about our national reserve. As far as these products are concerned, you still need to go back to these DAPMAN, these institutions that sometimes you are at loggerhead with. So, like I said, as it is, the refinery does not have the capacity to meet our entire energy need as a country. And as such, it must be ready to work with other stakeholders within the sector, while government also wakes up to play the role of a parent, in this case, the role of a father, to ensure that every stakeholders within the system, be it Dangote, the workers' union, the independent marketers, and work together in the overall interest of Nigerians.
Exactly. Mr. Lawson, please hold your thoughts there. We'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we continue the conversation. You're welcome back. You're still watching TVC Breakfast, and we still have Mr. Lawson here with us. This conversation is something that has been lingering on, and a lot of Nigerians need answers. Olamide.
Now, good morning, Mr. Lawson. We know that Nigerian labor laws recognize freedom of association, but the Dangote Refinery is insisting that it can operate finely and effectively without unions. But in your view, and I believe that this is the question on everyone's lips, does Dangote have the legal backing to bar unionism within its refineries?
Why is Dangote Refinery afraid of allowing workers to associate? It is not even the Nigerian labor law, it is the Nigerian constitution. And except when the association becomes a threat to national security or maybe public health or safety issues, nobody can restrict Nigerians from enjoying any rights, not privilege, any rights that have been given to them by the Constitution of the Federal Republic. So it is not even a matter of, and the question is, what is the fear of people unionizing about? Look at the reason why this union exists in the first place. That's like not in Nigeria, all over the world. Unions exist, even in the best of economies. Policies, and programs are driven in cooperation, in collaboration with workers' union. Why do they exist, and why is Dangote afraid? We understand that most importantly, beyond every other reasons that people have been given for the existence of this union, in most cases, these unions exist to ensure that they give strength to the power of the workers to collectively bargain, not only for their salaries and wages, but also their welfare. A lot of instances we have seen in this country whereby somebody wake up from the comfort of his bedroom and tell people who have been engaged to work to go on without the Labor Act, the Labor Act in Nigeria, which gives Dangote the right to employ and give condition for how you can even fire a person you have hired. Not while they were sleeping in their house, no notice of termination of contract, nothing, only for them to be reading press releases. It cannot work. Nigeria is governed by law. And corporations like Dangote are not above the law. Their policies, their whatever program or whatever policies rather, or laws governing their corporate establishment existence is limited to the walls, the four corners of Dangote Refinery or its offices. The moment you are outside that place, there are bigger laws, which also covers everywhere, including where your refinery or your offices are located. So it is not even about a matter of wish. It's about the fact that people want, and you have no reason to be afraid if you don't have intention of doing those things, which you feel tomorrow the strength of the labor unions may come to challenge. As we speak today, day in, day out, some banks quietly lay off workers without seeing it in the media. And do you know why they are doing this? A lot of banks today are no longer engaging staff as permanent staffs. They will bring you in as a contract staff. Sometimes you work for 3-6 months, and you are told to go home tomorrow morning because you are not their staff. You are just like a walk-in and out person coming to work, for the banks. Right. And these are things that private establishments in Nigeria have been exploiting. And that's why they don't want these unions, and they don't want Nigerian workers to work together as a body, because they know when they have unions, they will have associations, they start to collectively bargain, like I said, not only for their welfare and salary, but for their salaries and wages rather, but for other issues, including their safety and welfare,
but Mr. Lawson,
for by the union.
Mr. Lawson, don't you think there is a constitutional dilemma here where we have the Nigerian Constitution, Section 40, protecting the Nigerian workers, and then Dangote also has the right to also, go conduct its businesses within the legal framework as provided by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? For instance, if you look at the section of the Section 40 that I mentioned, there is this freedom of association, and Section 12, subsection 4 of the Trade Union Act, also explicitly prohibits forcing employees to join a union or penalizing them for refusing, meaning that their liberty as to join in or not. I'm actually heading somewhere. Okay. I'm actually heading somewhere. So do you not feel that it is within the right of Dangote to say, this is my business? I'm actually operating within the legal framework of as provided by the Constitution of Nigeria. I'm not against any law. And this is how I want to conduct my business, as long as it is my business. But as we go ahead with this rift, what is the position, the place of collective bargaining at the end of the day? So much so that Dangote will feel justified, and the workers will also not feel, will also feel unwronged.
Well, to start with, the Trade Union Act or whatever other laws in Nigeria that are inconsistent with the dictates of the Constitution will remain inferior to the dictates of the Constitution.
That's why I started with the Nigerian Constitution,
so,
Section 40. It does not mandate. You have the freedom of association.
Yes, which is superior to whatever the Trade Union Act gives as a power to employers of labor, just like you read out. But for me, dialogue is still the only way out. When you are talking about accountability, you must be willing to, because you look at the media statements that have been issued by Dangote over this matter, and look at the future of an average worker in that establishment or any other private sector in Nigeria. You wake up, you describe a union of senior civil servants in the oil and gas sectors, most of whom are, master's degree, PhD holders, people who have schooled in Nigeria and overseas, and you describe them as a group of terrorists, as anarchists. And you see, these are not languages that encourages, people to actually reason along. Because if you can be so audacious to describe a union as powerful, as influential as Pengassan in those very kind of words, now imagine what is likely to be the manner in which that kind of organization will address ordinary agitation within its establishment, maybe for an improved welfare or improved salary in future by its workers. You should know what to expect. And the conduct of the refinery, the industry itself, is giving it out as an organization that is willing to trample upon the right of its workers in the future.
Yeah.
So we're going forward, the refinery, or the industry as the case may be, the workers' union must be ready to sit and dialogue around issues that will make business, smooth and running the way it should for Dangote, while the rights of its workers are also going to be protected within the laws of the land, without unnecessarily operating as a slave camp.
Mr. Lawson, quickly, because of our time, there's this very important question. So the president of Pengassan, Mr. Festus Osifo, had said that if these 800 people are not brought back to work, the strike will not be called off. In your opinion, how do you think this is feasible? Do you think that they'll be able to be called back to work after he has sacked them? Because that is what he stated. Yes, he said if they did not call back to work, they will not end the strike.
I agree with him, because there are conditions to terminating people's employment in our laws. You cannot terminate the job of somebody who was sleeping in the comfort of his house in Yanokpaja or in Obalende, and only to get, you must have. So if Dangote on his part have breached the law by sacking people, in a manner that is uncivil, then the union also has a right. So even if you are going to terminate their contract tomorrow, it must be in line with the established rules, which is the superior law that are superior to your company policies and whatever document that is running, that you're running your company upon. This is a country guided and governed. Yeah,
but my question is, do you see this happening? Will it happen? It's not just about saying, will it happen? That's the question. Will it happen?
If it will happen or not, depends on Dangote. But I think this will have a long way in determining where this will end, because the union also has the right to make this demand. And I think, like I said, the middle ground is for the industry and the union to open the table for dialogue as soon as possible.
All right, sir. Let us look at government's incursion into this brouhaha. They want to midwife this rift between Dangote and Pengassan. Right now, it's not only Pengassan, because TUC has backed Pengassan, and so many other trade unions are falling in line with it. Do you think government's incursion is going to be successful? And what would you advise? How would you advise government to go about this mediating thing they are doing?
Government intervention at this point is important. If you look at the people behind Dangote Industries, the refinery, particularly Alhaji Aliko Dangote, is somebody who has partnered with the federal government of Nigeria a lot of time. And I think he also has a lot of respect for the current president of Nigeria, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. And the unions also, even under this current administration, have engaged the government on so many issues in the time past. And that is why I see the government as being capable at this time to move in and call these parties together, and also let parties, like I said, these unions are not infallible. They have their own issues. They have their own, including questions of accountability. Those are the issues. But that does not give license or liberty to any private individual or organization to begin to trample upon the right of the ordinary Nigerians, possibly because the situation they find themselves had made them to be truck drivers, engineers, or refinery operators in your company. The government must be able to spell it out clearly to every actors in these, these
Exactly.
fields. There are limitations, there are do's and don'ts.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Femi Lawson. It's been amazing having you on the show. Thank you so much for all your insights. We can only pray and hope that at the end of the day, the federal government will get into this matter and we see something good happen so that Nigerians will not suffer. Thank you so much. Thank you once again. Well, still ahead on TVC Breakfast, we will continue our conversation just after this break. Don't go anywhere.